Recently, I've gotten the chance to experience X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. After riding this 3 times in the past year and I have the full experience of this ride, I think it's due for a review. And there is so much I have to say about this ride. This coaster is easily the most intense coaster in the Americas and one of the most intense in the world. Let's digest this. First, I'll start off by providing a brief history of this attraction. It opened under the name X in 2002 and the project was done by American manufacturer Aerodynamics. Due to the high cost of this coaster, it would be the company's final coaster before they ultimately went bankrupt, and I must say that they went out with a bang, as this is undoubtedly the best of their creations. The problem with this ride is it was super unreliable, so it faced large amounts of downtime. It only operated for 5 years until the park pulled the plug and decided it was time to renovate it in 2007. American manufacturer S&S Worldwide was hired to provide new, lighter trains for the coaster that featured onboard audio. The coaster would also get a total repaint from Pepto-Bismol colors to a much better red and black scheme, a flamethrower special effect before the outside Raven turn, and some reworks with the ride systems. In 2008, the coaster would reopen as X2. Alright, now let me explain the ride itself. You will board onto either side of the wing trains where the seats hang to the side of each other of the track. The train has 7 cars plus a 0 car at the back of the train. Each of those 7 cars seat 2 people per row, and there is 1 row per wing. X2 uses a butterfly style restraint. This is like a vest restraint but better. It's practically split into 2 halves down the center vertically. To secure the restraint, you bring the sides of the restraint together and buckle up a seatbelt and push straight down on the restraint to lower it to fit your height. It covers most of your torso and leaves a lot of room between your torso and your waist. This makes the ride more intense than it already is. Upon dispatch, your seats will rotate backwards before the train begins motion. As you're rolling out of the station, you might hear music start to play, and if you do hear music, consider yourself lucky. Most of the time the soundtrack is not working, and this has been the case every time I have ridden it, which is a shame because it would make the experience so much better. After a turnaround, you slowly ascend a lift hill, providing astonishing views of the park. Then, when you crest the top of the 175-foot lift hill ascent, it's go time. You are about to face the wrath of X2. The train dips into a small pre-drop before an 88.5 degree, 215-foot drop, but it's not just any ordinary drop. At the beginning of the drop, the cars rotate forward, making riders face straight down at the ground. You feel like you're skydiving, but the intensity of this machine will not have your hands up anytime soon. Just before the pullout, the cars rotate one more time, doing a front flip and landing on your back during the pullout. The valley offers some incredible positive G's. After the insane first drop, you will be completely caught off guard, especially for first-time riders, but this is only the beginning. The pullout immediately shoots you into an inside Raven turn. It's basically a half loop that's followed by a drop that changes the train from being above the track to below the track. At the top of the Raven turn, riders will be in a flying position, facing the ground. The next element is a camelback hill, but as you traverse this element, the cars perform a backflip, which is a really cool sensation that you can't get anywhere else, and it makes you feel like you're in space. The train then enters what is pretty much the mid-course, and there is absolutely nothing special to this. It's basically a banked 180-degree turnaround that doesn't do all that much. It's the killer of the ride's pacing. Sorta. The rest is great, but it's just that one part, the only dead spot on the ride. But the intensity doesn't stop there. X2's next maneuver is a fly-to-lie section that is pretty much an uphill incline with half of a 0G roll as an exit, and the cars do a front flip where you land on your backs. It's pretty badass if you ask me. In the valley between that and the next element, there will be fire effects that, you guessed it, rarely work. Then you are sent into what I like to call the concussion zone. It's another Raven turn on the ride. This time you start with an uphill ascent followed by a half loop downwards, but the entry into the half loop shakes your cars super harshly. I found this to be most effective in the middle rows of the train. So in the front and the back, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. If you're sitting in the middle row and on an outside seat, I'll be at your funeral. I've gotten to experience this ride in the front, middle, and back of the train. If you would like to counter the roughness of this part, take an inside seat whenever possible, then grab the 2 handles down by your lap, not on the restraint, and strongly push yourself back when the time comes. Otherwise, X2 will leave something behind for you, and it's not a good thing, if you don't like headaches of course. Be conscious or get knocked unconscious. Anyways, back to the layout. The pullout of the Raven turn sends you freakishly low to the ground, making for a good leg chopper moment, and another fly-to-lie element, which this time is the first half of a Zoji roll into the brakes, leaving everyone breathless. The first thing a first-time rider will think is, what the actual hell just happened? That is one wild layout. There's so many pros to this ride, and that's why it secures the number 3 spot on my list. First of all, it's super intense, like so intense that I get scared when I approach the ride in its station. You cannot tell me that this ride was boring. The concept of the 4th dimension coaster is also super unique, and X2 was the only one made by Aero. SNS built 2 more in Asia, with one being Dinoconda at China Dinosaurs Park in China, and Ejunaika at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan. They are all the same model type and were created by the same designer, just by 2 different manufacturers. Well, one manufacturer continuing the previous manufacturer's legacy using its same assets. Alan Schilke, you are an absolute madman. I can go on and on with what I love about this ride, from the restraints to the first drop to the forces, and I could even say that this ride was arguably smooth in the inside seats. And that brings me to my first con, which is the outside seats, well, exist. If you make your friend sit on the outside seat, they deserve the most of your respect, or you could use it to punish your friend. You choose. But what I'm trying to say is that sitting on the outside seat is a sacrifice. Well, if you're sitting in the front 2 or 3 rows, it's not all that bad. If you're like constantly bouncing around and getting thrashed like a ragdoll, suit yourself. It will likely not hurt. However, if you're sitting anywhere else on the outside seat, there could be long-term effects. Anyways, my dad took the hit and had a day-long headache. Make sure to bring some aspirin along with you, just in case your group beats you to the inside seat. But don't bring your aspirin in your loose pockets when you're on the ride, or anything else for that matter. I'm going to say this now. Empty your pockets. Unless you have a zipper, of course. If you don't empty them, X2 will do it for you. And who knows where those items will go. It could hit another guest, which that's not gonna look good for you in the long run. Or in best case scenario, they will fly high above, low under, or to the side of the train, and your articles will be severely damaged. It only costs a locker, which by the way comes at a small fee, a pair of zipper bottom, or a scaredy cat person of your party, though I don't blame them, to prevent all of this from happening. Well, back to the roughness that this ride may deliver. When you board in the station, you may notice that the cars are super easy to rock back and forth. That just shows how light they are. This is why the ride is extremely bouncy. You'll notice it the second you leave the station. For me, that is the only con, but others may find this coaster too intense, uncomfortable, or otherwise unenjoyable to ride due to other factors. Oh, and I guess the fact that the effects don't work is also kind of a drawback. Not to mention that when I last rode it, it was really smooth, which made me enjoy it even more. To wrap things up, X2 is something that riders either love or hate, or are even left unsure. It is undeniably absurdly intense that ranges from being a little or very rough around the edges. Personally, I absolutely love this coaster, and it is a great competitor for my top 3. For a final rating, this coaster gets a straight up 10. It's an S-tier coaster by, dare I say, an S-tier manufacturer. You heard that right. Overall, X2 is a roller coaster that you have to do at least once in your lifetime. Boy, is it quite the experience. You cannot get this ride experience anywhere else in the United States. Yeah, no, I know what you're thinking. And no. Screw the 40 free spins. Those rides are nothing compared to X2. Heck, you can't even compare the two. You see, one is my number 3, while the other is my number 48. That is an absolutely massive difference. Now go to Magic Mountain or the other 2 aforementioned parks, ride their 4th dimension coasters, and come back and tell me what you think. Don't talk to me until you've ridden one. Again, if you don't live in the United States and you live in Japan or China, please go check out the 4th dimension coasters there. I've heard that they are also great, if not better, than X2. Anyways, I think enough has been said about this ride, so I'm gonna close the video off here. Hopefully, I've encouraged you to get out there and ride this coaster, the other 19 coasters that it has there to offer. If you like this video and love roller coaster content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.